Seniors, are you worried about the personal insight questions on the UC application? You need to write 4 350-word essays. They give you 8 total questions. Now this content should be easy because it's really about you. But from the 30 years experience I've got helping students write essays, this is the hardest essay to write because you've got to reveal yourself. However, it shouldn't be that hard if you follow a couple of simple rules and you make certain that no matter what, you reveal something about yourself in these essays. Watch this video and I'll show you how. My name is Mike Flynn, owner of Engenius Learning Center. For the past 30 years, I've been helping students write application essays. Students come to me very concerned that they don't know what they're going to write about. What I always try and tell students is that 2 most important things to remember. You know the content, because this story is about you. Now, when we talk about story, we're not so interested really in the story that you have to tell, but how and why that was personal to you. See, so for the UC application essays, they're looking for 4 350-word essays, and they're going to give you 8 total topics. Now, each one of those essay topics is a little bit different. Some are a little bit more alike than, some others. But realistically speaking, we're going to have 4 different content-based essays. The content is always about you, but it's a different aspect about you. Unfortunately, what ends up happening, most of the student essays that I read all involve a chronology, this fantastic story. You've only got 350 words, and people will devote 300 words to telling me about their story, and then only 50 revealing a little bit about who you are, how something made you feel, but most importantly, why. So again, the topic is a personal insight question, and really what we want is to help get that aspect of who you are out onto paper. So the very best way to do this is to go through and start understanding what it is that the application essays want. The very first thing we have to recognize is there are a couple of do's and don'ts. Most importantly, keep your focus narrow and personal. See, for the UC application essays, you only have 350 words. Now, when you first start out, that seems like an infinite number. But as you start to write, you realize that you're going to come up with a word count problem. Now, if you're worried about the Common App or the Coalition essay, those are 650 words. We can keep your focus a little bit broader. But for UC essays, this needs to be very narrow. We need to tackle one thing, and we need to make it very personal. The second aspect that I often talk about is this concept about spice. So what's interesting to me is that students have something that gives me a reason to want to keep on reading, right? Whatever that is, let me read. I want to be able to get to know you. And if you don't give me a little spice, it's not going to be very interesting. We've all had soup or stew that was too bland, right? There's not enough spice in it. We've also had something that was way too spicy, way too salty, and that's because the cook had a heavy hand. You need to be able to make your content have a little flash, have a little spice, and we do that by having some vivid and specific facts. But you don't want to have too many, otherwise we lose what it is that you're trying to reveal, which is something about you. Finally, what you want to do is you want to take the reader on a journey of discovery. So I often use this concept of a starting point and a finish point. And your job is to kind of weave a thread that takes me from the start to the end. But most importantly, whatever you do, don't keep putting parts of the story in there, because then there's no place for you to reveal who you are. So it's a journey of discovery with a starting point and a finish. And most importantly, it's okay if your journey hasn't finished. It's okay if you don't know what you're going to end up doing. And it's really okay to show that in this journey, if you failed. Now, if you did fail, even if you did succeed, what did you learn? And why was that important? Now that we've gone over some do's, let's consider some don'ts. Before you start to write, you should always consider who your audience is. The audience that you're writing for is going to be very receptive. They're going to want to see who you are and in a revealing fashion. What ends up happening, though, is that students are concerned that the audience that you're writing for, right, these college admissions counselors, are going to want to hear how wonderful you are, all the great things that you've done, all the wonderful times that you've gone through and helped others and created these amazing things. You know, for the most part, they recognize you're just a high school student and that you've played sports and you've been in activities, or maybe you were a kid that stayed home and read or played video games. Whatever the aspect is, they recognize that you're just an average teen and now you're looking to go to college. So let them know that. If you did do something wonderful, what did you learn from that? If you haven't done anything, what did you learn from that? And how can that help you in the future? And if you did have some failures, great, list them. Failure can be a wonderful teaching tool. You just need to show that. But most importantly, if you do show that you failed, or that if your life is still in progress, which it is, what lessons can you take that you're going to be able to apply when you get into college? And how is that going to help you springboard or leapfrog to the next aspect, right? So your life is just a series of these different places that we're going, and what experiences do I have and what can I learn from those different experiences? That's what they want to see. So don't just write about how wonderful you are, write about what it is that you've learned. Second aspect is this concept about rhythm. Now, having taught English and having read thousands of essays, I see that students all too often try and pack a sentence full of really big fancy words. You don't need it, particularly if you don't know how to use the words. Just going through and finding words from a thesaurus are the wrong way to go about writing these essays. The way to spice up your writing if you don't have a great vocabulary, and even if you do have a great vocabulary, be careful, right? Just we were talking about spice earlier in the do's, be careful with how much you spice your sentences with vocabulary. So one of the things to think about is this concept of rhythm. And the way that we talk about rhythm is that often students will write long sentence, long sentence, long sentence, long sentence. And then the next paragraph is long sentence, long sentence, long sentence, long sentence. And it goes on and on and on, and it can be very, very boring. So one of the very best things that you can do is alter that up. Throw in a short sentence that varies that rhythm. Now, sometimes it can be even better to start a sentence off with a short sentence. Then you go ahead and you have your longer subordinated sentences. Or maybe you start off with a long sentence, long sentence, long sentence, and you punctuate with something short at the end. And I always think of the Nike commercials. And one of perhaps the most famous terms or slogans in all of advertising is "just do it." And so you'll see these commercials that Nike will do. Well, they'll have a long scene and then another scene, and then they punctuate at the very end with "just do it." If it's good enough for Nike, it's probably good enough for you. Finally, in another concept of don't use 50 words if 5 will do. If you have the opportunity to cut words and make something tight and concise, that will be a much better essay for you than anything else that you can do. So that concept really helps play into the rhythm, and you'll see that you're going to write essays that are very, very tight and very effective. Okay, so we understand the do's and the don'ts of writing the essay. Now it's time to start writing the essay, right? No, don't. There are 8 topics, and when you go through those 8 topics, it can be a little overwhelming because you've got to pick 4 and you can't even decide on one to get started with. So what I often tell people is just start writing about something. And what you're going to do is this writing, though maybe not directly related to a topic, gets this process of writing going. And then you might be able to find some content that from these topics that we're going to write about that are going to help you out. And so one of the questions that I like to ask students to write about is, what aspects of your high school career did you enjoy or dislike the most? Now, there is not a direct essay that relates to that, but there is some content that you're going to be able to glean from that that might apply very nicely. How do you define success? Another great opener. It's an open-ended question. It doesn't have to be so specific, and you might be able to find a concept, a sentence, or maybe even a whole paragraph that you're going to be able to take and then use for a specific essay. Another concept of this starter that I often use for students, what kind of person do you want to become? See, so this is going to reveal something about your character, this passion that you're going to have. And that is something that is directly related to an essay topic. But if we were to start writing about that, then all of a sudden it's hard. But if we talk about what sort of person do I want to become, we can kind of dance around it and then shape a bunch of content to really help out. Finally, what experiences have shaped your growth? This can be a really easy one to start writing about that we're going to then be able to take and apply to an actual essay topic. Another couple of topics, name your academic interests. So you could say, hey, I love math, I love science, I love English, I love history. We don't really care what it is that you're interested in. We want to know what the interest is, and then most importantly, you want to then define why. Why is that something that is interesting to you? If you enjoy math, is it because there's a clarity that you can get to an answer and it's so clear? If you enjoy humanities, English, or history, is there a cause and effect to history that you find so fascinating? Or that if you were to be good at writing essays, is it that there is no single correct answer, but it's maybe the best answer that helps motivate people? Whatever the thing is, go ahead and put it down. But when we talk about naming your academic interest, it's a whole lot easier than having to start writing that essay. Were there any classes in high school that were too challenging, and why? Now, this is one that my students often wonder, Mike, why would I want to admit failure? Why would I want to admit that I'm not right? So there's something known as emotional intelligence. And when you recognize that something was challenging and that you've come to grips with it and you've had to modify your behavior to overcome it, that's very powerful. It's also very revealing, right? And this is, again, a personal insight question. I'll say it a dozen more times. Really, you need to make certain that you reveal who you are. And so if you said math was exceptionally challenging or history was exceptionally challenging, don't be afraid to say why. And then that gives you a platform to talk about the things that you've done to modify your behavior so that you can overcome. That's very, very powerful. What is the most difficult way for you to learn? This is, again, another concept of this emotional intelligence. Hey, I'm a very visual learner and I struggle when I do something. I'm a very kinesthetic learner and I love to do things working with my hands. And that can be, hey, this is going to be a perfect major for me. If you want to go into engineering and you're a kinesthetic learner, that's a beautiful fit. Finally, one of the ones that I find that's often most difficult for students to write about is, what would your friends list as your best qualities? So you could say, hey, this is my best quality, and you feel good about that. But it's a whole lot different when you have to ask yourself what your friends would think. Because what ends up happening is that we often feel as if we're going to be egotistical with what we're going to write down. That's part of this process. We have to break through that shell and really reveal who you are. Again, personal insight question. They want to know who you are and why you are the way you are. Okay, you have some do's and don'ts on what to do and what not to do for your essays. You have some ideas to get the writing going. Now let's start talking about the prompts. And this video is going to cover prompts number 1 through 4. So essay prompt number 1 is describe an example of leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. This one's pretty broad. They're really helping you out here. Right? They're giving you all kinds of things to write about. Unfortunately, students that I deal with often come to me with this idea of what leadership is. And they all think that, hey, I haven't been in student government, So if I haven't been in student government, I'm not a leader. I've never been the captain of my team. No, that's not what we're talking about. What we need to do is say, hey, it was a point where I took charge. And that could be something very minor. We don't need this gigantic thing to write about. What I found is if we just have this small little kernel, right? We have this little bit of something we can take and we can expand on that, and we can make a very good essay topic off of something very small, as long as we keep revealing that this is your core. So what have you done? So you're a student body president, you're in the class leadership. That's great. You can talk about a point when you've done something. And generally that's only 1 out of 4 people per high school, right? Because you've got your president, your vice president, your secretary, and your treasurer, and then everyone else is on their own. So that's not going to be too many people going to write about that leadership concept. Captain of a team, okay? 50 kids on a team, 20 kids on a team, you've only got generally 1 or 2 captains, so again, not too many. Those are going to be easier leadership topics to talk about. What about for all the rest of you out there who really don't feel that you were a leader on something, but there's got to be a point in your life where you did take a leadership role? And so they're helping you out here because they've asked you to positively influence others. You've resolved a dispute. You could be in a group project and you had a couple people who were just not getting along. Work was not getting done. There was a discussion, people split up, and then there was work that got left out. Maybe you were the type of leader who jumped out in front and said, hey, guys, this is what we're going to do. Maybe you're the type of leader who back-channeled and that you emailed and texted and phoned your person who was not doing well and helped cajole them to do the right thing and get back into the group. Maybe that you just happened to see a dispute between 2 classmates that were having trouble. Maybe there was something in the hallway that you see. So again, it doesn't have to be this gigantic leadership experience over time. What you do want to show is if you only had a minor leadership role, how did it make you feel? And again, why? Why did you not do more of that? Now that you've done this, do you see how you should do it more? Was there something that you were afraid of? Reveal all of this. This can be all very powerful. So go through, find something small, and then start building and building and building. And most importantly, figure out why that was something that was important to you, and it will reveal a very good insight into who you are. The second UC Personal Insight prompt is every person has a creative side. It can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So on the surface, many students gloss over this one because they don't think that they're artistic, so therefore they don't believe that they're creative. However, creativity really knows no boundaries. You can be very creative in the terms of the way that you solve a problem. You could be creative in the way that you get 2 people who are not working together to work together. You could be very creative in the way that you solved an educational hurdle that you had, right? Some barrier that you struggled with and you thought about and you worked away a number of different options to help you improve, and you were able to do that. So it's this concept of original thinking, problem solving, yes, of course, artistically, but there are so many different options for this. And again, just like in the previous essay, we only need something very small to build off of. We go from one small dot, we can take and we can make it bigger and bigger and bigger. You only have 350 words. So the concept here is that you don't have to really belabor the point too much. What was it that you found to be creative? Was there a problem? Now, this isn't just a mathematical problem, but maybe there was one time where you always done math the same way, or you always did science the same way, and then you decided to take a look at it from a different perspective. And then all of a sudden that completely changed the way that you approached math or engineering or whatever the aspect is. So again, it could be something very small that helped mushroom into something bigger. And then that could carry forth into what it would be like in your future. You want to go to college and you know that you've got this new set of skills because you were started to build on this. So again, they're not expecting you to be this perfect person and you're serving up your perfection on a platter here. That's not the case. What have you done that was a little bit creative, a little bit innovative, and then how can that become something greater? So ways this could be, again, something in school, could be getting two teammates to work together, could be getting two people in a group project, could be getting friends together, a way that you struggled in studying and you're able to come up with a specific study strategy that helped you out and improved your grades. Whatever the aspect is, we're looking for something that you are creative that we can write about. And again, 350 words goes by pretty quickly, so we just need a little spark to be able to go from there. The third essay prompt for the UC Personal Insight questions is, what would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So I see generally two types of essays here. The first is, this is the chance for the person to go, I am wonderful, I am so great, and you list off all of this wonderful chronology. In 5th grade, I did this, and in 6th grade, I was the captain, and in 8th grade, I was voted Mr. Wonderful, and on and on and on. No one cares. Again, it's this concept of a vehicle, right? I need to say, hey, what is my greatest talent? And there is some story about developing it and demonstrating it, but really they're looking to see what it is that you have and how you can offer that to the university, right? What's going to make you a good member of this university student body? That's what they really want to know. So what talent do you have? Okay, the previous one was, hey, I'm a great problem solver. That could be an option. Hey, I'm a really dedicated student. I'm a good citizen. Those are all great skills. You could be a great athlete. You could be a great musician. But what have you done to develop it? This just came naturally? I just am this beautiful model, don't I wish? And that I've just gone through and I've never had to do anything? That's not developing, right? That's not what they want to see. They want to see, gosh, you know, I've got this little bit of a spark in 5th grade and then I had to work on it and I had successes and I had failures. And I still think that this is a skill that I have, but I've got to develop it over time. And I realize that my work is just partway done, right? I've got the whole rest of my life to work on this one particular skill. This could be the fact that you're a leader. It could be that you're a great teammate. It could be that you're a great follower. Someone who, when you find the right person, that you work really hard towards a goal. There's a number of great talents and skills that you all have. You just have to be willing to think about what that means and then be willing to put it down on paper for someone else to write. And this is hard because the general nature of teens is that we don't want to say too much, right? So we have one side is the person can't wait to tell you how wonderful they are. And then the other type of essay that I often read is, gosh, I don't think I have any skills. I'm just normal. I'm just average. And that's not the case. You have something great to write about. We just have to figure out exactly what it is and then let that shine. The fourth personal insight question for the UC application essays is, describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. So the easiest essay to write on this type of situation is that if you've had some real educational challenges. And if you have had educational challenges, what have you done? Now, getting a bad teacher in 3rd grade and maybe letting that struggle all through the rest of your life, maybe that's a little thin to write about. What would be better is say, hey, I didn't get a great educational experience in 3rd grade, and that affected my confidence all the way throughout, and it was something that I had to work to overcome as I got into high school. Now that's going to be better than just placing the blame on the teacher. Yeah, sure, we're still blaming the teacher a little bit, but that's not really the focus. The focus is on how it happened to you and how you've overcome it. That's really the issue, right? If you were faced with a situation, and this is where if you come across an illness in the family, a move, death in the family, something to that has really impacted you, those are going to be significant. But again, the focus isn't on the story. Don't write about the story about how you were sick. Write about how it impacted you in the future. What has that done? But most importantly, what have you done to overcome that? Did you seek out some sort of help? Did you find a mentor? Did you start to do more group study? Did you start to do more individual study? Did you start to rely on the internet and YouTube? Whatever the aspect is, that's the aspect to try and develop. What it is that you've done to become a problem solver, right? So this is what the colleges are looking for, right? We've all had challenges. Did you just roll over and be a turtle on its back, or did you try and actively fight it so that you could improve? So each one of these essay topics is different, but there's all this general theme, and this general theme is who you are and why you're that way. The personal insight questions are going to really reveal who you are. There are going to be a number of applications that are going to look like yours. There are going to be a number of different student applicants with the same GPA, if they're looking at test scores with the exact same test scores. What is the thing that's going to separate you? There's going to be someone assigned to your file, and when they open up your essays, they don't want to just read something very traditional. They want to read something that's going to be unique, something that's going to be who you are, really show. When I look at that essay and read that essay, I can say, hey, I understand this kid a little bit better. And I get more depth than just looking at their numbers that they've given, the classes that they've taken. Yes, those things are important, but colleges are looking to build a student body, and you want to give them something to really hang on to. So put a great deal of effort into these essays. Make certain that you give them the time and effort, right? Because this could be the difference between you getting into the school and not. If you found something valuable in this video, please don't hesitate to hit like. Make certain that you subscribe so you can get other videos in the future from me. And most importantly, please leave a comment. There are a number of students going through the exact same process as you are. Go ahead and list your fears, list your success, list the things that you've done, and maybe some other student who comes across this video and reads those comments will have an easier time writing their own essay. I'm Mike Flynn with Engenius Learning Center, and good luck with your essays.